Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
In the heart of Louisiana, on an Easter Sunday in April 1873, a gruesome and defining moment in American history unfolded, a violent clash that would come to be known as the Colfax Massacre. The events of that day were not merely the product of local tensions, but the culmination of a nation struggling to redefine itself in the wake of the Civil War. As the United States sought to stitch itself back together, the Reconstruction era brought both hope and deep resistance, particularly in the South, where the ideals of a new multiracial democracy met with fierce opposition from those who refused to relinquish white supremacy. The Colfax Massacre, though often overlooked in mainstream historical narratives, became one of the most egregious instances of racial violence during Reconstruction, exposing the fragility of Black freedom and the limits of federal intervention in protecting newly won rights. The massacre stemmed from the contested gubernatorial election of 1872 in Louisiana, a state rife with post-war racial and political tensions. The election had pitted Republican candidate William P. Kellogg against Democrat John McHenry. The Republican Party, supported largely by free Black men, declared victory, while the Democrats, backed by white supremacist groups such as the White League and the Ku Klux Klan, refused to accept the outcome. This political turmoil soon escalated into outright violence. Colfax, a small town in Grant Parish, became the epicenter of this explosive conflict. In an effort to protect themselves from attacks and to uphold Republican rule, Black citizens of Colfax took control of the local courthouse, which served as both a symbol of their political empowerment and a stronghold against white paramilitary groups seeking to overturn the election results. As tension mounted, local white Democrats, incensed by what they saw as an illegal occupation, called for reinforcements from surrounding areas. Armed white men, numbering in the hundreds, descended upon the town, determined to forcibly remove the Black defenders. On April 13, 1873, the siege began in earnest. Outgunned and outnumbered, the Black defenders held their position for hours, but as the courthouse was set ablaze, many were either burned alive, shot while attempting to surrender, or executed in cold blood after being captured. The violence did not end with the storming of the courthouse. In the aftermath, at least 150 Black men were brutally murdered, making the Colfax Massacre one of the deadliest instances of racial violence in American history. The scale of the atrocity was staggering, yet justice proved elusive. Federal authorities attempted to intervene, leading to the arrest and prosecution of several white participants under the Enforcement Acts, which were designed to protect Black civil rights during Reconstruction. However, the legal proceedings ultimately failed to bring true accountability. In the landmark Supreme Court case United States v. Cruikshank, 1876, the court ruled that the federal government had limited power to prosecute individuals for civil rights violations, effectively gutting the ability of the federal government to protect Black citizens from racial violence. The consequences of the Colfax Massacre were far-reaching. Beyond the immediate devastation and loss of life, it marked a turning point in the decline of Reconstruction and the rise of Jim Crow laws. It sent a chilling message to Black communities across the South. The federal government would not, or could not, protect them from racial terrorism. Emboldened by this legal failure, white supremacist groups intensified their efforts to dismantle Black political participation, paving the way for nearly a century of disenfranchisement and segregation. Today, the Colfax Massacre remains a stark reminder of the perils of racial injustice and the fragility of democracy when violence is allowed to replace the rule of law. Though a historical marker stands in Colfax, the wording on it remains a bitter testament to the lingering distortions of history, calling the massacre a riot rather than an act of racial terrorism. The massacre may not be as widely recognized as other events in Reconstruction history, but its significance cannot be overstated. It underscores the unfinished work of racial equality in America and the ongoing struggle to confront the darkest chapters of the nation's past.